What we're looking at is fairly typical along the coastal plain, I think they call it. Type of environment that we have to reckon with here. It's a nice little magnolia tree beginning to grow. Little pine tree. I don't know of any particular use for the magnolia, but the little pine tree right there, or one that you could, a bigger one that you could still pull the needles off of. Pine needle tea is a very refreshing drink, and it's rich in vitamin C as well. Just walking along, seeing what kind of resources there are in this little patch of woods that I'm in. It's a nice little pine tree. The sap, you could use the sap as an antiseptic, as a wound dressing. I've done that. It works rather well. I had read that it even draws out, it draws the pain out. Whatever causes the pain, and a wound doesn't get painful. I cut my finger real bad with a hedge trimmer. Slid my hand down the blades and cut a nasty gash. And once it was cleaned up, I put the pine needle sap on there, and in a week's time it was totally healed, and also it never got sore. I had full function a week after it happened. I like the dry leaves. Those dry leaves, the sound of the dry leaves will let the critters know you're coming too when you're walking. And one reason you need to walk extremely slow. One of the things too, in any kind of a woodland environment, mountain environment, any place where pit vipers happen to also reside, it's their home. We're just visiting their home when we're in the woods and the mountains and places such as that. One of the things that I encourage people to do when they enter the woods is to slow down drastically and watch every step, look carefully, because rattlesnakes, they stand out. Moccasins, they stand out. Their patterns, a moccasin has the color, not so much the pattern, but the color stands out. And copperheads, though, they blend in so well. Now, I have found something here. Interesting to look at. This lichen that's growing. What we have here is at this stage of the game, where it's dry like it is. If I get my hand in there, there it is. Where it's dry like it is, you can work that a little bit and it'll accept a spark from a ferro rod and generate flame, which is good to know. There's also a plant growing that I have found. That noise in the background, somebody with an outboard ripping up the river. Several different plants and things in here that are not only interesting but beneficial. I'm taking my time because I don't have on my snake boots. Something that I also recommend if you live in an environment where pit vipers also reside, wear a pair of snake boots when they're out and about. This is a palmetto bush, and the palmetto that grows quite profusely in this part of the world. The terminal bud, the crown, is edible. Cut it out, it's going to kill the plant when you do it. Cut it, peel it, eat it raw, or cook it like a vegetable, and have yourself a little meal. Here's another interesting plant, one that I'm particularly fond of. What we've got here is a young yaupon, and the yaupon is a member of the holly family, and the yaupon is the only plant in North America that has caffeine in it. I like my caffeine in the morning, given a situation where I couldn't have that cup of coffee. Here's a resource in nature in the deep south that can provide a caffeinated beverage in the morning. Avoid the berries. The red berries, they'll give you a really bad gut. The birds eat them, but we need to stay away from the birds, or stay away from the berries just because the birds eat them. That's no indication that the things are safe for human consumption just because an animal eats it. I'm going to see if I can turn this thing around and where it's looking at me. I don't think it will. I'm just going to have to turn it around and look at me. That's me. One of the things I want to encourage people to do is get to know your theater. Now, I'm not talking about the movie house and what's playing at the cinema. I'm talking about the area where you live. That's your theater. That's where you need to be familiar with what's there. Where the water courses are, where the rivers run, where the watersheds are, a lot of things like that. You also should become familiar. I recommend that people buy themselves a field guide to wild edibles. I'm particularly fond of Peterson's field guide and refer to it quite often. But one of the things that I recommend is that people get a field guide to wild edibles and begin studying up on the wild edibles in your area, and formulate a list. Embed those in your mind. Know how to recognize them. Know how to process them. Know what season that they grow in. Here along the coastal plain, we have a lot of cattail, and we also have a lot of kudzu. I think both of those invasive. The kudzu is very invasive. But both of those plants, the kudzu grows all over the South now. Somebody's wonderful idea to import something to control erosion. It was really a good idea. And cattail, those two plants, they offer an abundance of potential as food sources. This is David, Woodsmoke Woodcraft. I appreciate you watching and taking a little walk in the woods with me.